for us. Now listen, you have a PhD from the Medical School, University of Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
And yet you constantly have evolutionists tell you that you're not educated because you believe in creation.
Yeah, it's the whole intimidation of all intelligent people believe evolution.
Right. All educated people believe. And yet we have a fiction writer who's used to write the story to prove that evolution's true. That's classic.
Yes, it is.
All right, now, we need to get on with this. You've got this evidence, so one point at a time. The first thing is horse evolution.
Horse evolution, two terms we need to talk about very quickly. They basically represent the same creature, Eohippus and Hyracotherium, and simply put, it's the creature that we see right here at the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Supposedly, this is the creature that all modern-day horses evolved from.
60 million years ago.
The only problem with that is that beautiful little timeline is not real. Harold Nielsen commenting on this, he said, the family tree of the horse is beautiful and continuous only in the textbooks. In the reality provided by the results of research, it is put together from 3 parts, of which only the last can be described as including horses. The forms of the first part are just as much little horses as present-day daemons are horses. The construction of the horse is therefore a very artificial one, since it is put together from non-equivalent parts and cannot therefore be a continuous transformation series. Don, the point I want to make there is the year that was written.
1954.
1954. We already knew that this idea of horse evolution was imaginary all the way back in 1954, and yet November of 2004, National Geographic is marching this out as evidence.
50 years later, they're still saying this is some of the best evidence we have in the world to prove the theory of evolution.
That's right.
Incredible.
That's right.
When they already knew it was wrong for 50 years.
George Gaylord Simpson said the uniform, continuous transformation of Hyracotherium into Equus, so dear to the hearts of generations of textbook writers, never happened in nature.
That's amazing.
And ironically, because of that, some textbooks have actually dropped the horses and now they're going to camels.
Now, why is there any more evidence to use the same logic for camels than there was for horses?
Simply put, we've disproven the horses so often that they realize, hey, we've got caught, so to speak. So we're going to substitute. We're going to use a similar picture, because after all, that's what's teaching the kids, is this idea in their mind, this picture.
That's right.
What I want you to notice, though, Don, is who the publisher of that particular textbook is.
And that would be?
National Geographic.
National Geographic.
So here we have the publisher of a textbook who has dropped the idea of horse evolution because they know they've been caught in the past, and yet one of the first evidences they march out for us in November of 2004 is horse evolution.
There's no integrity here.
Absolutely not. It doesn't stop there. Number 2, embryology. Evolutionists would like us to believe that as a creature develops in the womb, whether it be a human or an animal, it goes through evolutionary steps. In fact, in their magazine, they say, Darwin wrote, the embryo is the animal in its less modified state, and that state reveals the structure of its progenitor.
There's assumption here beyond evolution. There's assumption that the whole evolutionary process happens in the womb. There's no evidence for that, is there?
Absolutely not. And yet, on the screen, you'll notice a picture that is probably very familiar to a lot of the viewers out there. This one was drawn by a fellow by the name of Ernst Haeckel, and basically put, these embryos, he would say, suggest evidence for evolution.
I remember that from my 8th grade science textbook, by the way.
It's still very, very popular in textbooks. The way we read it, if you look down here at the bottom, this would be a fish, a salamander, a turtle, a chicken, a pig, a couple of mammals, and finally over here at the end we have a human at 3 different embryological states. His point being that early on, up here at this top row, he would say that all creatures, whether it be a fish, a salamander, a human, they were basically all the same. I mean, if you look across there, there's not a whole lot of difference. He, in fact, said that his turning point in his thinking was when he read Charles Darwin's book on the origin of species. And yet we know today Ernst Haeckel lied. He actually forged those images I just showed you. On this particular screen, you'll notice Haeckel's embryos are at the top and the real picture is there at the bottom.
In fact, Hegel was disciplined as a professor for lying, right?
Yes, he was. In fact, the story goes that he was kicked out of the University of Jena. You know, we've known literally for centuries now He lied in his pictures, and yet they keep showing up.
So who's the bigger liar? The man who drew the pictures in the first place knowing they weren't true, or the people who have continued to perpetuate the lie to our children when they knew it wasn't true?
That's right. And even evolutionists admit it. In Natural History magazine in the year 2000, Stephen Jay Gould, very well-known evolutionist, he commented on Ernst Haeckel's embryos. And I want you to look at what he said. He said, "We should therefore not be surprised that Haeckel's drawings entered the 19th century textbooks, but we do, I think, have the right to be both astonished and ashamed by the century of mindless recycling that has led to the persistence of these drawings in a large number, if not majority, of textbooks."
That phrase, century of mindless recycling of lies.
Yes.
You know, we did a show, another show on indoctrination, and it just says to me, you know, if you're looking for truth, you don't reproduce lies.
Right.
But if you're trying to perpetuate a theory for which you have no evidence, then you don't care if it's true, you just care if kids believe it.
That's right.
And that's what they're doing now.
That's right. Sir Arthur Keith, in commenting on embryology, he said it was expected that the embryo would recapitulate the features of its ancestors from the lowest to the highest forms in the animal kingdom. Now that the appearance of the embryo at all stages is known, the general feeling is one of disappointment. The human embryo at no stage is anthropod in appearance. The embryo of the mammal never resembles the worm, the fish, or the reptile. Embryology provides no support whatsoever for the evolutionary hypothesis. If you look at the date when Sir Arthur Keith made this comment, it was 1932.
Yes.
We knew embryology provides no support whatsoever for evolutionary hypothesis, and yet we're marching it out.
72 years later,
we're marching
it's still
it out.
the best thing we got, and we know it's a lie. Isn't that incredible?
And you ask yourselves, are we still putting in the textbooks? Definitely.
Yeah, that's absolutely damning evidence.
Third piece, I'm going to go up to the board and show you, we're going to talk about a creature called Archaeopteryx. He is the creature that is supposed to link dinosaurs to birds. And in fact, if you want to know more about him, all you need to do, Don, is run down to Wendy's and grab your child a Happy Meal, so to speak. Here we see a kid's Happy Meal. Notice at the bottom what it says. Fact, big red letters. New findings show that birds are probably related to dinosaurs. Scientists in China have discovered 2 fossils of feathered dinosaurs.
You know, I have a hard time with that word fact and probably in the same sentence.
Yes, a little evil of marketing again here. You know, fact, new findings show that birds are probably related to dinosaurs, but that's a fact, Don.
Yeah, and our children, we wouldn't expect them to pick that up.
Not at all.
Again, we're indoctrinating.
Here's one of the Archaeopteryx fossils. The big deal is this creature had teeth, and we know today modern birds don't have teeth. We do know that there used to be on this planet a whole species of birds that did. The thing is, evolutionists need a link. They need to figure out, hey, how can we explain birds using our theory? But I want you to think, Don, if they were able to explain flight, let's say this creature was that missing link, they still have to explain how did we evolve flight in insects, flying reptiles, i.e. the pterodactyls, pterodons. We've got mammals like bats that can also fly.
Right.
If you want to throw in flying fish, we could do that as well. You have to explain that evolutionary procedure in a lot of different creatures.
So even if it were true, it really wouldn't make the point.
Exactly. This particular creature, according to Colin Patterson, who served as the senior paleontologist at the British Museum of Natural History, he says it's simply become a patsy for wishful thinking. He went on to question, he said, is Archaeopteryx the ancestor of all birds? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. There is no way of answering the question. It's easy enough to make up stories of how one form gave rise to another, to find reasons why the stages should be favored by natural selection, but such stories are not a part of science, for there is no way of putting them to the test.
You know, you have to give him credit. He understands what science is, and he says these are stories, they're not science.
Exactly.
And yet again, this is being presented as one of the 3 or 4 most irrefutable evidences for the fact of evolution.
Alan Fiducia, probably one of the world's foremost bird specialists, favors with what Colin Patterson said. Alan Fiducia concluded that Archaeopteryx was a boreal volant, considerably advanced aerodynamically, probably capable of flapping powered flight to at least some degree. Listen to his conclusion. Archaeopteryx was, in the modern sense, a bird.
Just a bird with teeth.
A bird.